I feel like it really speaks to what it must have been like to be a woman in that time, watching, waiting, listening, and never really being able to speak your truth, and she did that. It's about one woman's fight for justice, ultimately. The story is set in medieval France, and Marguerite is a woman who testifies that she is raped by the friend of her husband. And the story follows on from there. It's an interesting kind of format. The story is told from three perspectives, which I thought was quite a dangerous way to tell this story in a way. It was very important for everyone involved, actually, that people come away from this movie knowing that she was the one who was telling the truth.
I'm married. I was a good wife. And then was judged and shamed by my country.
Well, especially for Legree's and Carouge's narrative, I had to really kind of think about how it was they saw me as a wife and as an acquaintance, and really try and think about what they needed from me in those moments to tell their side of the story. It's an interesting way to work as an actor, because usually you only hone in and focus on your own instinct and your own motives. And I was often having to go against that a lot of the time. I felt a lot more relaxed about doing that once we'd established Marguerite's version on camera. Like, I felt very protective of that. But it was a really fascinating way to work, and I think the biggest thing that we had to think about was just the level of how much we pushed it. What's beautiful about the script and what Matt, Ben, and Nicole did, and what's kind of fascinating, is that in those scenes that are played from different perspectives, the dialogue is exactly the same. So it was very evident to me that a lot of this was going to be performance led. You never want the audience to be one step ahead of you. So I think that's when we really had to think about, okay, how far do we push this reaction? How far do we push this glance? I think it's a really enjoyable part of the film. When you get to the end, it makes you think back to all the moments you've seen previously and like kind of reassess and go, oh, okay. At least that is my is my hope. I really wanted to have a sense of personality, and wit and humor, and just to make sure she was alive. I think there's a tendency sometimes when we play people from a historical period, there is definitely different manners, and there was a certain expectation and elegance and poise, but then there is something, I think, there can be a danger there where a performance can become quite stiff. And I really didn't want that for her, especially when she's so young and full of life and desires. And there's a really simple kind of beat of the scenes played in two perspectives. It's in Carouge's and it's in Marguerite's, and they're at the dinner table with her mother-in-law, and he says, I'm off to Paris. And in Carouge's version, she kind of leans over the table longingly and she's like, please don't go. And then I think in her version, I might have threw an eye roll in, but really was like, I like that. I like that. And then he was always kind of encouraging, like, to, me to bring kind of parts of myself out in those beats. So that was always enjoyable, when we were, again, playing around with the perspectives, especially for the more difficult scenes in regards to like the rape and the scene leading up to that moment in the corridors. We shot Marguerite's perspective first, which was great because, again, I felt secure in knowing that I'd established the truth. And then kind of came the challenge of, how do I make a retreat and a very clear declaration of no somehow seem like an invitation? This very simple things I had in my head was, Carouge thinks he is the best husband in the world. He thinks I'm a doting wife, happy marriage, great sex life. A marriage made from love is what he thinks. And then there's Legree's narrative, which is something totally different. So I feel like once I knew those kind of basics, I then had a kind of playground to kind of experiment. I just had to treat it as reality, just had to treat it as, okay, this is the truth in this moment. But it was funny because, when I got told about the project and I met Ridley, and, they really wanted to champion her and her story and make sure that she came out of this storytelling as the hero. And I remember reading the script and going through page by page and going, hang on a minute, where is she? What's going on? Like, and then, the payoff was so huge for me at the end, because I realized I kind of played into that assumption that she was the wife. She was almost like a prop. Yes, her telling is at the end, but I feel like it's all the more powerful because you are left with her, and you kind of realize, that kind of length of time. I don't know, I feel like it really speaks to what it must have been like to be a woman in that time, watching, waiting, listening, and never really being able to speak your truth, and she did that. And I feel like it really holds a mirror up to us as a society, when you realize, when you think about the courtroom scene where she's sat alone in front of all of those men while they ask her the most personal, insulting questions about the experience, about the assault itself, about her sexual pleasures, and you realize that, like many women who speak out today, they are doubted, they are questioned, they are publicly humiliated. It's all of these things. And when you realize that this has been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, and yes, we have come a long way, but we've by no means come far enough.
There is only one question that matters. Do you swear on your life that what you say is true?
My father told me my life would be blessed with good fortune.
I love Nicole. Like, we got on so well. Like, we would hang out a lot, and when we were filming, she's such a wonderful writer and director, and she was so open. It wasn't even that she was open to ideas, it was just like woman to woman, you can sit around a table and be really, kind of brutally honest and be comfortable in that, which I really, really valued. Actually, I really appreciated her presence. We couldn't have done it without Nicole, because she brought such a nuance and a depth to Marguerite that I feel you need a woman's sensibility, you need an understanding, and she's a ton of fun. There's a moment at the end before the duel when she's with her baby and Karouche comes in, and she has this moment of like a realization of God, of I now see why so many women before me have not spoken out, is because I am now so confronted by what I have to lose. And I remember I sat with them around the table for that moment. We were trying to figure out, what she would say. Where I experienced that and was introduced to that was on Killing Eve. Before Killing Eve, I thought, you're an actress, you lay in your lines, you go to set, you go home, and that's, you don't need to do any more than that. And then having worked on Killing Eve and for a long time, and as each season goes on, the producers kind of saying, come on, you're at this table, what is it you think, what is it you want, what do you feel, is this working, is it not? You get a real sense of your own voice and your instincts. So I think that's what Killing Eve introduced to me. So I realize now that, oh God, the experience is so much more fruitful when you're present in those types of conversations, and you listen to what other people have picked up on, or that you may have missed, and you think, oh God, that's a brilliant idea, I never ever thought of that. And it's such a collaboration, and The Last Duel really, really was, and that's hugely down to those guys. The night before we were due to film those scenes, Ridley, Adam and I, we met at the studio, and we went to the set, and we blocked the scene out physically, but literally just kind of stepping through positions. But Ridley was like, I kind of need to know roughly where you guys are going to land, because he sets the cameras up. He has 4 or 5 cameras. So we did that. We went home. We came to set the next morning. The set was ready to shoot. The cameras were in position. And Adam and I were just kind of given the space to find it. The set that Ridley creates almost feels like a theatre. The takes were cut eventually, but one take was like 8 minutes long, so it was quite a duration. We had an incredible stunt coordinator, intimacy coordinator called Ita O'Brien, who's done incredible work. And when we finished a take, every single crew member put down their tools, they stepped away, they left the room, and Ridley came in, and we just kind of had a couple of minutes to compose ourselves and just speak very gently about what we thought we'd found, if it felt right, if it didn't feel enough, you know, all those things. And then we had to figure out how this act somehow could have seemed complicit, you know. This playing around with perspective is so fascinating, and it did feel kind of dangerous because I was like, this has to be executed in such a way that there is no doubt. I think for me, what's such a beautiful moment is that final beat, you know, when you see her with her child, and that kind of breath and acceptance that you sense from her, that she went through this terrible thing, but her life will not be defined by it. And she lived many years, and she never remarried, you know, and she loved her child. Like, her child was the most important thing to her, irrespective of who the father may or may not be. You know, I feel like her child was the first time she probably ever truly felt love, actually. And I really love that moment at the end. I feel it really kind of summed that up perfectly for her. I would like to shout out the entire cast of Coda. I watched that with my mom a couple of weeks ago, and we were both crying so hard. Such a beautiful, beautiful film, and I feel like that ensemble was so incredible. There was one particular scene, though, with I can't remember the character's name, but Amelia, and she's with her dad, and she's singing, and they're on the back of the truck, and he places his hand on her neck while she sings for him, and I was broken. But yeah, such a beautiful scene. I think that's one of my favorite films from the year. You know, I have to shout out is Janty Yates. She's by no means an unsung hero, but she's the costume designer, and oh god, she's so full of life. And I whenever she's in a room, it's just, she makes everything better, and she's so brilliant. So maybe this is just a shout out of appreciation, because she's by no means unsung. I really want to do a musical, so maybe West Side Story is where my envy lies. I want to do a musical so bad. So yeah, that's what I can think of off the top of my head. Do you know what? I recently watched Zola, and what I was really blown away by was the freedom. Forgive me because I don't know the lead actress's name, but there was something about the freedom in her portrayal in that film which I really, really enjoyed. There was a confidence, it was unapologetic, and I thought that was really beautiful. And I thought, wow, I wish I was able to kind of let go of myself in that way. So yeah, I would probably say Zola.